Today on Retire with Purpose, setting healthy financial boundaries with your loved ones. Will your income last as long as you do? And 401k rollover pitfalls.
Welcome to Retire with Purpose, a show specifically designed to help you maximize your financial confidence in retirement. Casey Weade is the CEO and Chief Visionary of Howard Bailey Financial, a certified financial planner and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He's your host on Retire with Purpose.
Financial issues are a key cause of family stress, and the answer can be setting some boundaries, and that's where we're going to begin today. I'm Lee Kelso here with Casey Weade, certified financial planner. He's the president of Howard Bailey Financial, host of the Retire with Purpose podcast, and that's where he talked to Dave Jetson, who is a financial therapist. That's kind of an interesting role.
Financial counseling. There are actually only a dozen financial counselors. At the time we conducted this interview, there were only a dozen financial counselors in the entire country. So we were lucky enough to interview one of those 12 different counselors out there, Dave Jetson, owner and practitioner at Jetson Counseling, where he helps coach individuals on financial issues, money issues that largely arise out of our past experiences, largely through our childhood. And we deal with these things with the families we work with day in and day out. Why aren't we spending as much as we could? Why do we keep pinching our pennies? And then we have to overcome those things quite often as we step into retirement. So it was a really relevant discussion, but really what brought me to Dave was an article that I had come across and provided as part of our Weekend Reading for Retirees email series. And it was an article where he was quoted and discussing setting boundaries, setting financial boundaries, and how to set good boundaries with your loved ones. And he actually wrote a book, Setting True Boundaries, which we're going to be giving away here in just a moment. So stick around for that. But first off, what's a financial counselor? And sometimes, what's a financial counselor and a financial advisor? What do they have in common? What should be different between these two individuals? And that was where I wanted to kick things off, because sometimes we feel like financial therapists or financial counselors. Do you need two different individuals, or should your financial advisor be practicing both elements of planning? Let's hear it from Dave.
Well, that's a very hot topic in this organization. I mean, in the respect that when we look at it, when we're doing the financial planning piece, you're actually using one portion of your brain. It's more your conscious brain and your logical brain, if you will. And so the financial planners use that very well. The emotional brain is tapping more into the subconscious. And what we're going to be doing is tapping in more into your emotional history patterns, into traumas that you may have had, your belief systems that you were taught.
Dave Jetson has conducted hundreds of financial recovery workshops, and I wanted to ask Dave, what is the number one most impactful thing or noteworthy takeaway that you find from your audience when you give these workshops?
I will tell you that I work with people and I will invite them to create share their definitions of money. And I usually, at a typical workshop, will get 50 to 70 definitions. None of them are the real definition of what money actually is. And every one of them has an emotional component associated with them. So I'm very interested in who's saying what definition they have for money, because it's creating an emotional definition around what they have. And so that's what we're going to want to work on in the workshop, is their emotional definition of money. And based upon that is what we'll do is I might incorporate certain real money exercises to help them feel that pattern, and then help dig into the emotional historical pattern associated with it. And what's interesting is I invite people to look at their first memory of money. And many people bring up, where there's actual money involved. Sometimes they don't. And many of our money financial patterns were not created with actual money. It was about, there was value in something, in a situation, that they felt value or felt value being taken away from them. And those are the patterns that we really want to dig into and look at to explore how those patterns created their financial patterns.
Now I want to transition to where I actually found Dave Jetson originally, and that had to do with setting good financial boundaries. We see this in our practice time and time again, the struggle with setting good financial boundaries. And Dave's going to share with us the importance of setting those boundaries and why when you enable, you actually disable.
It's really about inviting them to look at, what are you teaching? And this is where I will typically work on with a person. What are you teaching by giving your grandchild this money? What are the lessons? And many, when we look at, well, I'm teaching them to love. And I said, well, yeah, there's truth in that. I'm teaching them that they matter to me. Yeah. How about this? You notice how you're also teaching them that they don't have to take care of themselves. Are you going to be here to take care of them after you die? Because the more you enable them now, the less tools you're giving them to take care of themselves when you're gone. So let's look at the whole picture and look at the emotional piece of this. Is this money about giving to them really about them, or is it about you? I've worked with many people when, the kids in this situation that have much resentment of their parents because they haven't been taught how to manage their money, how to take care of themselves, because mom or dad are always there to bail them out. And then when mom and dad set a limit with them, then they get really upset. And because they've learned if they get upset, they can convince mom and dad to give them money.
This reminds me of a call that I recently received from a friend of mine that lives on the other side of the country, and his 13-year-old son had called me and wanted me to buy some t-shirts from his t-shirt company. And I said, great, yeah, I'd love to buy a few shirts for a family. I got home and I thought, boy, I don't feel like I'm teaching him anything by just giving him money for these shirts. So I called him back and I said, hey, how would you like to receive an order for 35 shirts? And he got, oh, that'd be great. I said, well, there's a catch. You're gonna have to do some work. I need you to do a presentation for our entire team on why you built this company, this t-shirt company, and why we're gonna adopt the name of this company as our slogan for this year, create or complain. I wanted him to work for it. I wanted him to get a lesson out of this opportunity that he had placed and we had ultimately delivered upon. A lot of these money issues and setting financial boundaries, they don't have to do just with your children or your grandchildren or your friend. Sometimes it's the one that's closest to you. Sometimes it's your spouse. You're not aligned in the areas of your values and goals when it has to do with money. And Dave Jetson shares with us here what you can do about it.
So it's really about looking at the details with that couple, if you will, very specifically, and saying what, as far as if we want to work on the boundaries and that sort of thing, what's the emotions associated with this? Where's the fear and the anxiety? Okay, for the person that's saving, many times I'm afraid, money is about safety and security. So you're throwing away my safety and security. And for the other person, this person is spending all the money. It's really about, I have to spend it while I have it because it's going to be taken away from me. Money is about freedom and love and joy and that sort of thing. And so it's really about how do we set a boundary of saying, the boundary could be about an allowance, in that case.
Yeah, there is a lot of emotion and other issues tied up in money, isn't there? We can all use some help setting boundaries, and here's an opportunity I hope you'll take advantage of. Casey has worked with Dave and the team, and they have a stack of books that they'd like to give to you. So if you'd like to receive a copy of Dave's book, it is called Setting True Boundaries, How to Create Respect, Safety, and Freedom in Relationships. You can receive this book absolutely no cost, no obligation to you. All you have to do is call 866-482-9559, or you can text the word SET to 866-482-9559 and receive a copy of Dave's book, Setting True Boundaries. It's an interesting topic that I think you'll learn a lot about. All right, when we come back, Marshal Johnson joins us. You're going to be learning about how to set a safe withdrawal rate for your retirement, so stay with us.
Here's a retirement reality check. There are new threats to your lifelong savings in the form of taxes. Have you taken the steps to prepare? The Howard Bailey team wants to help educate you on how to safeguard your retirement from the ticking tax time bomb. Learn how to leverage this low tax rate environment before rates increase by registering for our complimentary Tax Time Bomb webinar, hosted by National IRA Distribution Educator Ed Slott. Web times are limited, so register now by calling or texting the word BOMB04 to 866-482-9559. Call or text the word BOMB04 to 866-482-9559. Investment advisory services offered through Howard Bailey Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Howard Bailey Financial does not offer legal or tax advice. Please consult the appropriate professional regarding your individual circumstances.
Welcome back. We are now joined by my good friend and co-host of the Retire with Purpose podcast, Marshal Johnson's here with us.
Hey, great to be here, Casey. We got a great article to discuss today.
Yeah, and what kind of article? Well, this is an article that we provide to you as part of our Weekend Reading for Retirees email series. That is one email that hits your inbox every single Friday with 4 articles on trending topics in the retirement planning space, all designed to help you make better decisions about your retirement. And we spotlighted an article from Morningstar in episode number 197 of the Retire with Purpose podcast. This article was titled, "Will the Real Retirement Income Number Please Stand Up?" So Marshall, why did we choose this particular article?
Well, we had to choose this article because it had a great title. But beyond that, it touches on a subject that we talk a lot about in the office, and we get lots of questions about: how much can I safely withdraw from my retirement accounts and not run out of money?
Yeah, and we've talked about the 4% rule
Sure.
over and over
Forever.
again.
Yeah.
So why are we going back to the 4% rule? Well, this is something that I think is widely misunderstood, and this article goes into depth into the variability in what some experts consider to be a safe withdrawal rate, from 2.5% up to 10%. You know, the variability is everywhere, and it really shares why we see that variability and better solutions for you to get more certainty about your retirement income strategy. And here are the real risks. If we just think we can apply this rule of thumb to our retirement income strategy as we step into retirement, your unique circumstances might result in you underspending and not living up to the lifestyle that you could, or overspending and running the risk of running out of money in retirement.
Yeah, ultimately, it's one of those very important questions that we have to answer and get good, solid research. And Casey, this article's full of wonderful research.
Yeah, and this was a rule of thumb that was created back in the 80s and ultimately won a Nobel Prize in the 90s. An advisor named William Bennigan out of California decided that he was going to back test various withdrawal rates to see if he could find what a safe withdrawal rate was. What he found was if we took a mixed portfolio, balanced portfolio of stocks and bonds, a traditional investment portfolio for retirees as they step into retirement, and if we took 4% out every single year, we took 4% out and adjusted it for inflation every single year, he said we should not run out of money. That's a safe withdrawal rate within about a 95% chance of success over a 30-year retirement horizon. However, today is different. There are many different attributes of your financial strategy and the economy that are going to impact the viability of this. And this is what we've seen over the last 15 to 20 years, is we've seen economists and retirement researchers come out of the woodwork to share with us why we might need to revisit that 4% withdrawal rule and make some adjustments.
Yeah, everybody seems to want to attack old Billy Bennigan and try to figure out what is a safe withdrawal rate. But I think the easiest thing to pick apart is that came out of the mid-90s, 1994. Well, what happened after the dot-com bubble crashed? We had a lost decade. We had not seen that before, where the S&P was actually down over a 10-year period of time. So we have to understand that market returns might be lower than what he's back tested with his thesis.
Yeah, so on the equity side of that stock and bond mix, those stock returns were not stress tested through the 2 major stock market downturns that we saw over the last 20 plus years. And given that those things weren't factored in, there's also another factor that you'll see a lot of different economists and researchers discuss, and that is current market valuations.
Yeah.
Current market valuations would lead to the expectation that we're going to see lower stock market returns in the future, and we see the same thing with the bond side of that stock bond mix.
Yeah, you talk about where interest rates are today. Geez, interest rates are on the floor right now. So if 50% of your portfolio's in bonds, during Bennigan's period of time, those may have been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% yields. Today we're closer to 2, for expectations from a bond portfolio. So that's going to change whether that's a successful investment or not.
Well, and this rule was based on a 30-year time horizon. Now we're working with retirees retiring at 60 that might spend more time in retirement than they actually did while they were working. They could be in retirement for 40 years. And there's a huge difference in the probability of you not running out of money between a 30-year time horizon and a 31, 32, 33-year time horizon. And in addition to that is good behavior.
Yeah, that's what I was
This
going to
is
say.
assuming that you're going to maintain a 50-50 stock and bond mix for the rest of your life. So you're going to have to regularly rebalance that and not hit the panic button when the stock market inevitably tanks.
Yeah, we talk about behavioral finance all the time. You've got 30, 40 years that you could potentially make a misstep or a mistake, and we have to take that into account.
And if you get online and you start researching what a safe withdrawal rate is, you're going to see numbers all over the place. And this article shared the wide variation in those numbers. We have one of our favorite retirement researchers, Dr. Weade, who is a creator of the Retirement Income Certified Professional designation, who we've had on the Retire with Purpose podcast, saying that that number is about 2.4%. Then you have people like Guyton saying the number is closer to what? 6%,
5.8, 6.2. And then you got Michael Kitces, who's been on the podcast before as well. He's saying, geez, it could be much higher. It could be 6.5%, somewhere in that 4 to 10% range. So all over the map.
Well, then what I think is really fun to talk about is now you've got William Bennigan, who's coming back and trying to defend that Nobel Prize, and he's changing the way that he actually ran the numbers in the first place. He's saying, hey, I think it's more like 5.25 or 5.5 because of the low rates of inflation that we've seen over the last several years. And now going forward, we should use a lower inflation rate than what we've seen throughout history. Well, the whole thesis was based on history tending to repeat itself. Let's use historical numbers. Now he says, let's use historical stock numbers, but we're going to use future-looking, forward-looking inflation numbers.
Yeah, so why all the variability, right?
Yeah, it's largely assumptions. It's the inputs that you're actually using. It's based on your own unique circumstances. And the real variability here is that it's probabilistic planning. This is probability-based income planning. And Dr. Weade, who we had on the Retire with Purpose podcast, we discussed with him the safety-first approach to retirement planning, which he calls the academic approach to retirement income planning. And he shared with us how we can see guaranteed income rates today utilizing tools outside of the stock and bond world where you could have a guaranteed income that's higher than any of those safe withdrawal rates that we just discussed from all these various retirement researchers. The problem is that most plans lack any guarantees.
Yeah, most people are working with that probabilistic approach, and it has to be monitored closely. That's the problem with it. You have to understand where inflation rates are, where your spending rates are, and you really got to monitor that very close. So now with low interest rates, these guarantees become more attractive for a piece of that portfolio.
And we believe that you need a real income strategy, not a I hope so income strategy. And one of the first steps you could take to getting a real income strategy you can depend on for the rest of your life is to pick up my book, Job Optional. We'll send you out a copy at absolutely no cost. Give us a call. The number on your screen will send you out a copy of Job Optional. We share with you all the different income strategies you could use to gain more certainty regarding that retirement income strategy. If you want to take another step, maybe you're ready for a customized income strategy for your own unique situation, then pick up the phone, give us a call right now on the number on your screen, or text consult to that number. That's consult to that number on your screen, and we will deliver to you a complimentary financial review and a free income strategy so that you have an income plan that you can depend on for the rest of your life. Stick around. Up next, we're going to be hitting on Social Security, long-term care solutions, as well as 401k rollover missteps.
Here's a retirement reality check. There are new threats to your lifelong savings in the form of taxes. Have you taken the steps to prepare? The Howard Bailey team wants to help educate you on how to safeguard your retirement from the ticking tax time bomb. Learn how to leverage this low tax rate environment before rates increase by registering for our complimentary Tax Time Bomb webinar, hosted by National IRA Distribution Educator Ed Slott. Web times are limited, so register now by calling or texting the word BOMB04 to 866-482-9559. Call or text the word BOMB04 to 866-482-9559. Investment advisory services offered through Howard Bailey Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Howard Bailey Financial does not offer legal or tax advice. Please consult the appropriate professional regarding your individual circumstances.
It is time to put Casey to work answering some questions. And if you have a question that you'd like to get an answer to, just write info@howardbailey.com. You'll definitely get a reply, and we might use your question right here on the program. So let me give you an example. Somebody wrote in, at what stage or age in my retirement process planning, Casey, should I be thinking about long-term care?
Yeah. Well, Lee, I really think that's when you can afford it. I say that in all seriousness because most individuals will get out there and start researching about long-term care, trying to determine when they should file for long-term care. And they'll say, well, it said online I shouldn't look into long-term care until I'm 60 years old. Well, what happens if you're 45 and you become disabled? You end up incapacitated. You end up in a long-term care facility. That's exactly what happened to a couple that I worked with that were in their mid to early 40s. They had a close friend of theirs that the husband was incapacitated, ended up in a long-term care facility, and it left the spouse, the wife, destitute at a very early age. These are things that really do happen, and they can happen at any time. They can happen when you're 20. They could happen when you're 90 years old. There's no time, there's no really telling when that might happen. Even though it is more likely to happen when you're older, it doesn't mean it can't happen when you're younger. And you might be surprised to find that you could even get a long-term care solution without paying anything out of pocket. You may not have to get a traditional long-term care insurance policy to have long-term care benefits. And sometimes it's just a shuffling of assets, moving money from one pocket to the next, essentially. Let's say that you have an old life insurance policy. Maybe you have an old life insurance policy with a $250,000 death benefit that was passed down from your parents. They bought it for you. You've had it for years. It's got a $250,000 death benefit, and it's just sitting there. Well, maybe you still need the life insurance death benefit, but we might be able to replace that old policy with a new policy that has the same or maybe even a higher death benefit, but now it has provisions to allow you, just like many of the newest policies have out there today, they allow you to accelerate that death benefit so you could use it for things like long-term care, home health care, assisted living, nursing home care, and you can do so on a cash basis. One of the big downsides of a traditional long-term care policy is that it's reimbursement based. Much like your health insurance, you have to incur that expense. You turn in the receipt, they reimburse you for those things. And instead, if it's cash-based, like most life insurance policy death benefits are, then you could use that cash for whatever thing you might deem necessary. Maybe you'd like to pay one of your children to help take care of you. Maybe you want to pay the neighbor to mow the lawn or someone to clean the home. You have more flexibility with those death benefits in a properly structured life insurance policy than you would in a traditional long-term care insurance strategy. Now, not everybody can afford it. Not everybody has the ability to reposition assets to get those policies, but you should evaluate all of your different options. With this family that I discussed with you that were in their mid-40s, we evaluated all of the solutions, and I think you'd be surprised to find how many different solutions are out there. We evaluated just simply saving money in a Roth IRA year after year instead of putting those dollars towards a premium. We evaluated looking at a policy that you would pay into just like a traditional long-term care insurance policy. We looked at life insurance policies with death benefit, life insurance policies with cash value. We looked into hybrid asset-based policies, and we looked at the pros and cons of all of them, and they selected the one that was the best fit for them. You're not going to get that unless you work with an independent advisor that has all of those tools at their disposal. You're going to get one solution, maybe two solutions if you're lucky, and those are the only solutions you get. And you might walk out thinking, long-term care is not for me. If that was your experience, it might be time to take a second look, sit down with our team, and let us give you an independent, unbiased opinion and let you make the decision on what is best to do with your life savings.
Yeah, the decision is yours, but it certainly could pay off to get some expert assistance in guiding you through all the options. Man, that is so true. Okay, here's our next question. I'm 62 and I will be filing for Social Security soon. However, I have a side job that I will keep in retirement. I've heard there's a limit on the amount of income you can earn in retirement without penalties. Is that true?
Well, I think we have to be careful with our wording. So yes, there are some things to watch out for when you start turning on that Social Security and you're going to continue to earn income in retirement, but there aren't any penalties for earning that income over and above those Social Security limits. And what I mean by that is if you earn too much, you're going to get a forced suspension of those benefits. That means if at 62, you made $100,000 a year, but you took your Social Security, they're not going to allow you to take that Social Security benefit. You're going to have to give back the Social Security benefit, but when you get to your full retirement age, say 67, then they're going to give you a 25% increase in those benefits. It's as if you never took Social Security in the first place. Those income limits are $20,000 up until your full retirement age, and then $50,000 in your year of your full retirement age. And you'll find those numbers right there on your Social Security statement. So recognize those income limits and also look for the opportunities to maybe restructure. We had a couple that were farmers and they wanted to take their Social Security income and they had to put that farm in the other spouse's name in an LLC as the owner of the farm, allowing the other spouse to file for their Social Security benefits without risk of a forced suspension or temporary reduction in those benefits. So a lot to think about.
So here's our last question. I want to roll over an old 401k, but I'm worried about the potential tax implications. What do I need to be aware of?
Yeah. Well, most 401ks after age 59 and a half, I believe it's about 85% of 401k plans will allow you to roll over your 401k to an IRA, whether you're working or not, and start implementing a retirement strategy before you actually get to your retirement date. That can give you a lot more confidence on the way to that retirement date while you're still working. And that's the important number, that 59 and a half number. And you want to make sure you roll it over to another tax advantage retirement account and do so in a direct rollover. That's custodian to custodian, not taking a 60-day rollover. That means they send you a check and then you have to redeposit that into an IRA within 60 days. There's some things that you have to watch out for there. And in addition to that, there's some other numbers that you should consider. If you retire or separate from service at age 55, you could avoid having any penalties if you take distributions from that 401k directly to yourself. At age 50 with a 457, there's another number for you to keep in mind as well. Again, a lot to think about in this world of retirement.
It sure is. Long-term care, 401k rollovers, there's a lot of stuff to be thinking about. And to help you get through all those tough decisions, I hope to be one of the next 10 people who will reach out to the members of the Howard Bailey team and ask for a complimentary financial review. It's a chance to sit down with an independent professional and take a look at how well provisioned you are to cope with all the things that can come along in retirement, not just the issues we've talked about, inflation, stock market crashes, healthcare crisis, so many different things that can happen to derail your retirement. How well set are you for all of that? It's one of the things you'll learn when you sit down with a member of the Howard Bailey team. So be one of the next 10 people to call 866-482-9559 or text consult to 866-482-9559 and get yourself on the calendar to meet with a member of the Howard Bailey team. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week right here on Retire with Purpose.